thought that I would improvise. My script was clearly written, the theater of predictability. I was pure, innocent as a kitten. Act 1, the lights were dimmed, the curtain raised, my lines recited, applauded and praised. Act 2, enter stage left. I entered stage right. Disoriented, filled with confusion, the cue card's no longer in sight. This show must go on, I can't stop now. So I'll write my own story, be proud, take a bow. I'll speak with conviction and hold my head high, because this play will continue till the day that I die. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, excuse me. I was born in 1947 in Hammond, Indiana. Harry S. Truman was President of the United States. A gallon of gas cost 15 cents. A new house cost $6,600. 185 people lost their lives that year in a tornado in Woodward, Oklahoma. 2 years later, my granny was widowed, and she came to live with us. And 2 years after that, my brother was born. Excuse me. My father was a rising star in the world of retail, and my mother, a business school graduate, tried to become the dutiful housewife. We were the image of the post-war all-American family. My father's job was to open department stores, and that process usually took 8 to 12 months. By the time I was 7 years old, we'd lived in 5 states and made 9 major moves. When I was 8 years old, Dwight D. Eisenhower was President of the United States, and the movie Oklahoma won 2 Academy Awards. That year, my young, eager, goal-oriented father died unexpectedly of an aneurysm in his office. I was Daddy's girl, and his death had a profound impact on my life. My mother returned to work as a legal secretary. My granny took care of my brother and I. We were no longer the image of the all-American family, and those were not very happy years. My mother worked all day and drank in solitude in the evening. My granny eventually moved out. My brother became rebellious, and I began performing very poorly in school. In 1964, John F. Kennedy was assassinated. The next year, I barely graduated high school, took a job, and moved out of my mother's home. A year later, I married my high school sweetheart. He was 18 and I was 19. He joined the Air Force and I became a military wife. In 1968, we had our first son, Joseph, and one day later, Martin Luther King was assassinated. In 1970, our daughter Tara was born, and we received orders for Torrejon, Spain. I made the trip to Spain by myself with a 2-year-old and a 6-week-old infant. Looking back on that, that all seems rather daunting, but at the time I was young and excited and I was ready for adventure. In 1972, our twin daughters, Amy and Kristen, were born. In 1975, the Vietnam War ended with the fall of Saigon, and we received orders back to the United States to be stationed at Altus Air Force Base. It was in Altus with 4 very young children that I ever so timidly started college. Looking back on those college years, I'd have to say that the most difficult thing I had to do was walk through those admission doors for the first time, because I really did not think I could function on a university level. I surprised myself, and by the end of the 70s, I had transferred to OU, divorced, married a man who had custody of his 3-year-old son, Matthew, and graduated Phi Beta Kappa. In 1980, I gave birth to my youngest child, Zachary, and completed my graduate work. Not having extended family to assist, the 80s were spent rearing children, establishing myself professionally, assisting my husband in completing his undergraduate and graduate studies, burying my granny, and then burying my mother. Frank Sinatra sang, I did it my way. I'd have to sing that I did it the hard way. In 1991, I loaded my 12-year-old son and some camping gear into my Mustang convertible, and we began a trip to California for a family event. We camped all the way, stopping at Santa Fe, Durango, Mesa Verde, the Grand Canyon, and Las Vegas. In 1993, I divorced. In 1994, I bought my first home by myself. In 1996, I backpacked the wilderness of Alaska for 3 weeks with the man that was to become my 3rd husband. and in 1998 we bought a bed and breakfast in Sulphur. The 21st century has not found us sitting idly on the front porch. In 2003, my husband, following a quadruple heart bypass, decided he wanted to ride motorcycles. And we began an annual trip to Sturgis, South Dakota with me riding on the back every August. The next year, he thought he might like to race motorcycles. So we've since been to the Bonneville Salt Flats on 3 occasions, and he's clocked in on all 3 occasions. His highest speed was 166.3 miles per hour, and I was not on the back. Not to be outdone, however, in 2007 I successfully completed the motorcycle safety course at Oklahoma State University, and on my 60th birthday obtained authorization on my driver's license to drive a motorcycle. Since that time, I've become in love with New York City, but tonight does not permit me to talk about that. That's for another speech. So I'll end with the words of Susan Morzak. What can I say? But I'm working on it. All of it. Everything in its entirety. I've left nothing out. I can't say when it will be complete, only that I'll not cease until it's a little rounder, a little longer, a little tighter, and with a little more red. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Wow.